You spent quite a few years based in Singapore. How important is a willingness to travel when you work for such a large multinational corporation?
It's absolutely imperative. So all the new hires that come and start for me, all the new graduates that come and start for P&G, it's made very clear that if you want to move through the organisation at a fair pace, and in fact, to certain levels within the organisation, you must travel overseas. Australia is about 2% of our global revenue, and unfortunately that means that there's probably 2 or 3% of the global opportunities within P&G within Australia. So I definitely encourage a lot of my young analysts to look further afield. Do they want to move to Asia, whether it's Singapore or China, or onto Europe and the US? And I think whether we're in P&G or other FMCG companies or other companies within Australia, I think that's becoming more and more so. I think that definitely this is a fantastic place to live. It's also a fantastic place to work. But international experience is now becoming a must if you want to get to more senior levels of these multinational organisations.
You run a team of 23 finance managers and analysts. How do you go about choosing people to be on your team?
First of all, number one is I see academics as a hygiene factor. And what I mean by that is that obviously I expect analysts to come from good institutions, have very good marks, have a good academic history. But beyond that, the number one thing that I look for is leadership. And what I would be looking for is not just somebody that has gone through university and had good marks and maybe had a part-time job, but has really led a group of people, really made a difference outside of their university group. Because once they enter P&G, what I'm looking for is people, if they're given a brand to manage, or they're given a budget to manage, or they're given a sales team to manage, is really take the bull by the horns and make a difference, lead a group of people, grab a solution and lead people to that solution. And that is actually something that is easily said, but often it's a very unique trait often with a lot of people now coming through university.
David, business strategy is becoming more central to the CFO's role. How have you transitioned from being a numbers man to being a master strategist?
I think all the way through my career, I've tried not to see myself as a finance analyst, but really as a mini CFO. And what I mean by that is that whether we were given a small business that's sort of worth $5 million or a small customer base, you really need to see yourself as an owner of that business. And you need to be not only critiquing the financial viability of programs, but also the commercial viability. So as a finance manager, we've definitely always encourage my people to look at the marketing campaign. Does that make sense to you? For example, we're all part of, we're all consumers, and we all have opinions on things like marketing and so forth. We also can have opinions on things like supply chain. Yes, there's a lot of complicated aspects of things like supply chain management, but also a lot of it is very common sense. And I expect all my analysts and myself to look multifunctionally and analyse things multifunctionally, and at least ask the questions of those other functions. So as I've moved up into become a CFO, I think because I've had that experience, that multifunctional experience, it's become a lot easier to look at the holistic strategy of the business and not just on the financial viability of the business.
David, what's more important, academic qualifications or on-the-job training?
Academics is extremely important, but it's a hygiene factor. So you need to understand the technical basics of any discipline, and finance, that's no different. I expect that anybody coming into my team obviously has the right academic background, has a sound university degree and so forth. But beyond that, the importance is how do you take that academic context and turn it into, how do you take that academic background and turn it into a business context? And that's where I was referring to before, is leadership is very, very important. And being able to understand the business environment then take your academic background and be able to use that to drive the business. The other area that I think academic is very, very important. If it's done well, it teaches you how to learn, so you learn how to learn. And you do notice that a lot of people that have come through university have really learnt how to learn. So that I don't really, not so concerned with every last thing that they know, but if they can come into a new environment that requires new skills, you can see that some people, particularly people who have done well at university, are able to learn those new skills and adapt a lot more quickly. And that's really where I think academics is very, very important.
What sort of training and career development do you undertake, and how do you find the time to do that?
Up until this point, and I've been out of university now for about 9 years, up until this point I've really taken on the career development that I've focused on is experiences. So I've made sure that I've had obviously both multifunctional experiences within the Australian business, but I think probably even more importantly is putting myself in positions where I get a vast field of international experience. I've worked in countries like India and China, the Philippines and Thailand and Vietnam. I'm trying to pick up as much international experience as I possibly can. So when I move back into a CFO role, whether it be with P&G or with another company, I will have that experience that I can deal with different cultures, different business environments and so forth. Now, as I move forward, I am planning to go back to academia. I don't know what scope that will be in, and I'm probably looking down the track of some kind of international academia, whether that's a US MBA or something along those lines. But I think it is very, very important that at least every 5 to 10 years that you do get back into that external skill development, because you can't get siloed within your organisation, within your current business environment.
What sort of role would you like next?
I would definitely like a very large corporate function role potentially. Head of treasury for the region or even the globe would be something that I would be, would definitely be something that would interest me. I'd also like to go back to have a international role again. At the moment, obviously we have a very large role within a very narrow geographic band. I would love to go as the next role to have a similar role across again, multiple geographies and countries, and across a different consumer base, whether developing all the way through to developed. So definitely, look to expand in that area as well.
David Phillips, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much.